This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities.
Welcome to the premiere episode of Wish TV's Business, Equity, and Opportunities. I'm Scott Sander. Last October, Circle City Broadcasting announced a 3-year commitment to air and produce a show dedicated to business equity and opportunities. It's a new type of show designed for entrepreneurs to educate, inform, and provide the necessary skills to start and run a successful small business. Big difference, the information is coming from successful business owners and community leaders who've all lived the small business dream. The show is part of Circle City Broadcasting's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion by providing useful and compelling content that focuses on all the diverse communities that we call home. Episodes are designed with 7 segments, each to help you find success in your small business enterprise. We'll introduce you to some of those segments today and hear from a few of our contributors about why they believe what we're doing can make a difference. You'll be able to watch the show right here every week, or you can access all of our content and share it on demand at beoshow.com. Our site will continue to grow as the weeks go on with new content and additional resources. To get started, our first topic, getting started. Each week, the segment will focus on the things you should consider, think about, plan, and prepare for, and research before taking the first steps into a new business. You may remember Gary Brackett for his football success as a Colts fan favorite and a Super Bowl champion. Today, he's a leadership coach and founder of Champ CEO. Gary starts us off with his thoughts on personal branding and explains how essential it is to the growth and success of your small business.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities. Getting started.
Successful business owners say the promotion of your personal brand can be essential to the growth of your business. It can impact how customers, clients, and partners view you, your products, and your services. Gary Brackett, Champ CEO and former Colts linebacker, explains why personal branding is an important part when getting started.
Okay, so you want to start your own business. Congratulations, but you're going to need your personal brand. I know, I get it. Sometimes you don't want to be on a video, you don't want to put your face on something, but consumers are more likely to purchase from people that they know, like, and trust. And because of that, you need to build your personal brand. Now, what all entails your personal brand? Well, your values, your personality, all those things that come across while you're building your personal brand. One of the things, if you have a company or a business, you should have a logo and you should have a tagline that's really representative of who you are as an individual and what your company will do in its inception. Other things you should consider is posting online and showing up online. And I know you're probably looking at some competitors and they're everywhere with omnipresence. And when you're first getting started off, I wouldn't be so concerned about that. I would focus on 2 platforms where you could show up and be consistent. Consistency is key here because people are going to want a place where they can see you and see that you're a real person and see that you're showing up authentic. Speaking of authentic, that's something you should be. A lot of times people get caught up with their personal brands and they think likes are associated with buyers. It's not always the case. So when you're posting online, don't get so caught up with the fads and the dances and doing things that aren't really representative of who you are and what your brand stands for. The goal is not to get likes. The goal is to build a tribe of people who are actually going to purchase from you and buy from you. And how you do that is by building your personal brand, by being consistent, by knowing what tone you want to use, by being professional, showing up every single day. So then you can create raving fans that know, like, and trust you. And then when it comes to buy something that you offer, it becomes a no-brainer. One example that I want to give you. I have a friend who's a realtor and his brother purchased a house and didn't use him, his own brother, as a realtor. And he was so offended by that. And he came to me and asked me, like, yo, should I address the situation? And I said, how often do you post at your realtor? He said, I posted one time when I graduated real estate school. I said, aha, there lies the problem. You have to be consistent and show up and show people exactly what you do time and time again, because if not, they're gonna forget about you and you don't want one of your family members going to buy one of your products from someone else. So make sure you show up consistently, tell people what you do, so when they have a choice, the choice is gonna be a clear-cut favorite in your corner because you build your personal brand and people know, like, and trust you.
Thanks again to Gary Brackett for kicking things off on this premiere episode of Business, Equity, and Opportunities. Gary is one of our many contributors for this project.
I really think the Business, Equity, and Opportunity show is a great idea. As an entrepreneur, sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and you don't even know what questions to ask. So having a program that's going to share with you some business principles for some leaders in the community that's saw their fair share of success and failure is going to help accelerate your learning curve. It's going to help you become a better business owner a lot faster.
Still to come, we'll discuss access to capital with Dr. David Hampton of LISC Indy, open the books on accounting and bookkeeping with Emboss founder and CEO Matthew Murphy III. And in our industry focus this week, we look at the restaurant business with Ron Jordan. Be sure to find more online at beoshow.com. This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities. We'll be right back.
Getting started, made possible by the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities.
I think the concept is great because what most organizations need is to be informed. They need to know what's out there. I can't tell you how many times I'm out in the community and people have never heard of LISC or don't know exactly what we do. And so we're grateful for segments like this because it gives us an opportunity to tell our story, but it also gives the community an opportunity to hear the story and to hear what services, we provide.
That is Dr. David Hampton, Executive Director of LISC Indianapolis. LISC plays a huge role in working to improve the economic health of Indianapolis neighborhoods. Funding is often one problem entrepreneurs face when getting started in underserved communities. In our next segment, Access to Capital, Dr. Hampton talks more about CDFI funding, what it is, and how it plays an important role in generating economic growth and opportunities in underinvested communities.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities. Access to capital.
One problem for small business in underinvested communities is access to capital. CDFI funding plays an important role in generating economic growth and opportunities in these communities. Dr. David Hampton, Executive Director of LISC Indianapolis, explains CDFI funding and the reason it was created.
A CDFI is a fancy name for Community Development Financial Institution. So we primarily focus on providing capital and financial services to businesses that are often overlooked in underinvested communities. Oftentimes when an organization will seek a bank, banks are good, but oftentimes banks may see higher risks involved, or they may not see a return on their investment as they would like with a smaller organization. So CDFIs are really designed to sort of foster that economic opportunity in neighborhoods that may not have that opportunity.
Before contacting LISC Indianapolis, Dr. Hampton recommends that you do your homework first. Learn more about the requirements and next steps you'll need to take before discussing CDFI funding.
You definitely need to be prepared to have a business plan, readily available. And again, I mentioned credit. I can't stress that enough. We do have certain credit enhancement services we provide, but it is important for you to ensure that your personal credit is good. And even if it's not, we can still work with you, but there are some steps you'd have to take, some education, and we really want to ensure that you're financially able to be sustainable in your operation. And so LISC steps in to really be an intermediary. We provide technical assistance, capacity building. We are really honored to partner alongside organizations that actually do the work. We're glad to help fund that work, but we don't actually build houses. We don't actually provide the services. We don't actually do job training. We don't actually do healthcare, but we finance and fund healthcare and home repair, and we want to engage in those spaces so that, again, we can really improve neighborhoods and the economic resilience of our neighborhoods.
Resources to enhance your business and establishing community partnerships are essential to obtaining CDFI funding. Dr. Hampton explains more.
We will meet with an organization, anyone who'd like to meet with us, and we try to encourage them to look for resources that will enhance their business or service that they want to provide. For example, it's important that certain organizations learn the power of partnership. You're going to hear that a lot with many funders. Public-private partnerships are important. We look for the same thing because what we try to do at LISC is build an ecosystem. And an ecosystem provides that partnership opportunity so that businesses or organizations or nonprofits can work together. So, for example, if you would look for a CDC, a Community Development Corporation, perhaps in the neighborhood where your business is located, or any business development organization, which there are many out there that exist, but we want you to really partner with an organization because that's going to really strengthen and sort of force multiply efforts, and we look to finance and fund those corporate collective partnering efforts.
Once the capital is secured, makes sense to watch the news of the day. In a minute, we'll look at how that can affect your new business.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities.
Welcome back to Business, Equity, and Opportunities on WISH TV. I'm Scott Sander. Successful business owners say it's very important for entrepreneurs to stay on top of the latest news. From rising gas prices to supply chain problems, current events in the world and in the community can have an enormous effect on a small business. Each week on this show, we'll take a look at stories that carry important implications. Carolyn Mosby has spent her entire career as an advocate for the economic growth of minority business enterprises and shares her thoughts and concerns as she looks to the future.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities. This Week in Business.
Successful business owners say it's very important for entrepreneurs to stay on top of the latest news. Current events in the world and in the community can have an enormous effect on small businesses. Carolyn Mosby has spent her career as an advocate for the economic growth of minority business enterprises. She shares her thoughts and concerns as she looks to the future.
I think we're on the right path, but my question is whether it's sustainable. Just because people woke up 12 months ago doesn't mean that this issue and this problem hasn't been around. That's the whole reason why our organization was created 50 years ago, was because corporations saw a need for an organization to help them find diverse suppliers and to validate whether they were, in fact, diverse, and to connect them so that they could enjoy contracting opportunities. So this is nothing new. We have many corporations that join our organization simply just to say they're members. They don't participate, they don't have a program, they don't come to any of our events, they don't engage with any of our suppliers. They simply pay us a membership fee to say that they're affiliated with us and that they support. Well, the support is only valid if there's engagement and if there's contracting opportunities. So if you don't have a real program, paying a membership fee to my organization doesn't do anything for the diverse suppliers that want to do business. And I think if you look at the bigger picture from an economic impact and an economic development perspective, when we attract businesses or we go out to recruit major corporations to move to Indiana or central Indiana, we ask them to hire people, we give them tax breaks, but the one thing we don't ask them to do is to make a commitment to do business with diverse-owned companies. Because when those major corporations come here, those diverse-owned companies want to do business with them. So if we truly have a commitment to empowering diverse businesses in this state, I think that when we are bringing corporations here, one of the things we need to ask them to do is to make a commitment to spend a certain amount of dollars with diverse-owned companies on a consistent basis, and we don't do that. So I appreciate the fact that, this last year and a half, many corporations have stepped up to the plate, but my organization has been around for 50 years. And there are many corporations in Central Indiana that are not members of my organization or other organizations like mine, where we've been knocking on their doors for 50 years, trying to engage them and ask them to support minority business development. And it was only because of what I call the George Floyd guilt that we've had companies that have stepped up. But my question is, in 2 years, where will you be? How are you tracking those dollars that you have committed? Because there's really nobody out there looking to see how the dollars are being allocated. We read the press release that says this company is going to commit several million here and they're going to do this in the community, but nobody's really watching that, right? So in 2 years, where will we be? I think that's the question we all need to ask.
When we come back, one of the most important areas that every business must get a handle on, the accounting and bookkeeping. You must know your numbers to succeed. When we come back, we'll get an expert opinion on exactly why that's so necessary. Stay here for more insights on business equity and opportunities. I'm Scott Sanders. Thanks for watching this encore presentation of business equity and opportunities. We hope you've learned some tips that'll help you start or grow your own business. If you'd like to catch up on past episodes or segments, watch us here every weekday or visit us at beoshow.com. And don't forget, new episodes of Business Equity and Opportunities air every Sunday morning on Wish TV, or you can stream it live at wishtv.com. Fuel your entrepreneurial spirit. Watch Business Equity and Opportunities from Wish TV.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities.
I think it's a tremendous vision on the part of what the show aims to contribute to our business community and to our economy in the state of Indiana and beyond. I think access to capital is always rated as kind of high in terms of challenges to solve, but underneath that is really knowledge and giving entrepreneurs, would-be business owners, management teams the opportunity to know where resources are, whether they be the financial resource providers or the technical assistance that companies need to put together their business plans, to work with accounting firms for their financial needs, and a myriad of other services that are all necessary for any level business to succeed and grow and thrive. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity for your station to actually be the North Star in terms of the repository of information, and to give folks the opportunity to see and hear from people who have kind of been there, done that. So I'm really excited for what it represents.
Matthew Murphy III is the founder of Emboss Partners in Indianapolis, a financial firm specializing in small and entrepreneurial businesses. He says one very important and sometimes overlooked part of starting a new business is accounting and bookkeeping. This week, Matthew talks about the importance of keeping your finances on track and common mistakes to avoid.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities, Accounting and Bookkeeping.
Proper accounting and bookkeeping are very important parts of any new business. Matthew Murphy III, founder of Emboss Partners, talks about the importance of keeping your finances on track and common mistakes to avoid.
In my experience, I think business owners tend to be passionate about their businesses. Generally, they have a very strong understanding of the industry dynamics of their business. So they tend to focus on the marketing and branding of their businesses by this networking we've been talking about, and boasting on the capabilities of the business to deliver and to solve problems and to make customers happy. So the marketing side of it, I think, gets a lot of attention. I think most businesses don't understand how important it is for the financial side of the house to be even more prominent in terms of the ongoing operational balance that a business needs. Cash flow is king. So things like accounts receivable, you sold the product or service to the customer, but did you get paid? And if you got paid, did you get paid in 90 days or did you get paid in 20 days? It matters. And did you get paid in 90 days because you failed to invoice on time? Because the customer's not going to pay you until you invoice them and say that they owe you. So those are some of the nuances on the financial side of the house that really, I say, is really a discipline. It's every day. Marketing, not so much every day. Although, happy customers are doing some marketing for you kind of behind the scenes. But I think the financial side of the house is where a lot of business owners in the early stages of their companies kind of have not as much of a focus as needed. And the other thing that you mentioned, having great external partners, a CPA firm that is doing your taxes, business taxes on time, every time, and is giving you some advice and guidance on some of the financial elements of your business. And then the owner also needing to focus on their personal credit as well. FICO scores do matter, and that's part of the character test, actually, in some bankers' minds. So I think it's really the financial side that gets underweighted in the early stages, and usually the reason that is because a lot of new businesses can't afford that polished CFO on salary, but there's all kinds of ways to get there, all kinds of ways to skin that cat. There's CFO organizations that are external, so outsourcing that function is one way to skin that cat as well. So that would be my thought in terms of where some focus has to be. And business owners, while they may not ever become experts in finance, they need to understand some of the moving parts on the financial side of the house for their businesses, because that's where the accountability lies. If you go to a bank and a bank makes you a loan and they want a payment of principal plus interest at the end of the month for the next 60 months, you can't afford to be late, because that's impacting negatively your credit from a corporate standpoint. So,
in the early stages of a business plan, how important is it to include a financial advisor? Matthew continues with his answer.
I think it's very, very important. In fact, as a former banker, when I had prospective clients talk to me about their goals and objectives for getting their businesses financed, those are some of the first questions that I want to know. Who makes up your internal team? Do you have a good CFO or a bookkeeper or finance manager? Who's your CPA firm that you're working with? Because what is needed today is at least needed for the entire journey. In fact, it may be necessary to kind of up your game and get better talent in those disciplines. So, I'm seeking answers to those questions very, very early on. In fact, maybe even before I read the business plan.
Our thanks to Matthew Murphy III, founder of Emboss Partners, Indianapolis. Get more information, share, and watch on demand at beoshow.com. Still to come on this premiere episode of Business Equity and Opportunities, something to be concerned about when planning the day-to-day operations for running your new business.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities.
Well, we know this hasn't happened before. So not just for funders, for the people that we want to feel like they have opportunity, right? To feel like, you know what, I could really go start a business. I can't remember in my time being here in the US ever having something I could turn to that talks consistently to me as a black person about business. Right, so having that consistently, not once a quarter, blurbs, posts, but a consistent conversation about business startup towards a specific demographic, right? And in a lot of ways, right, TV has sent a lot of subliminal messages that didn't go to black people. Today, we see a lot more messages towards the black community, but this message about business startup, about an environment that encourages entrepreneurship, risk-taking, economic freedom, all of those things, right? And that consistent message, I say it's like hearing a song on the radio all the time. You don't like the song, but you just find yourself singing it. It's the same thing with this. Having the show and your commitment and the commitment to a 52-week show that people can tune into, can watch online any day of the week, and then having follow-up resources. So it's one thing to hear about a business plan, then I got to go Google it and find out who has the best template for me to see. It's another thing to talk about a business plan and then have a link for you to click on that shows you examples, and then who you could go to in your community to help you do this. I think those things are game changing. I think it's innovative, right? So to me, those are the kinds of innovations that we need in a community that's starting to build things from the infancy stages. So, especially having the name Business Equity, so there's no misgivings on who it's speaking to, right? And those are the kind of things we need where people know exactly that, hey, look, this is for me. I can actually do this. If I have a booth space in a salon and I make $1,500 a week, but I'm not a registered business, you know what? I can actually go start my business, become bankable, and build my credit, and it's a game changer. So I think this is part of why I say Indy is so unique, because opportunities like this exist, and the fact that it's happening, right? It's really exciting because it also triggers the mindset of something new coming to the community. It triggers the mindset of, like, we're actually making a change, right? It's actually something happening in Indy. So really appreciate that that's happening. Really appreciate it happening now and not 5 years from now. So I think it's a game changer, because now business owners, businesses, people who have ideas can turn into a station or tune in on a Sunday and see people that look like them, talking about things that they dream about. So I love it. I think the timing is perfect, and I think it's going to inspire a lot of change here in Indy in the immediate future.
That's Emil Ekiyor, founder of InnoPower Indy. There are so many things to consider when starting a business, and one of those is how will you handle the day-to-day operation of running your business? Each week on Business Equity and Opportunities, business professionals share their experience and advice on what it takes to run a business. This week, we explore the importance of creating an effective physical work environment, even if you don't have an enormous budget. What and whom you should surround yourself with can make a difference.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities, running your business day to day.
There are so many things to consider when starting a business. One of those is how will you handle the day-to-day operation of running it? Emil Ekiyor, founder of InnoPower Indy, explains the importance of an effective physical work environment, even on a small budget.
We believe it's almost worse to bring something to a community and 2 years later it's gone. So one of our partners in this endeavor to create the foundations and the infrastructures to support startup sustainability of Black businesses is Co-Hatch. So Co-Hatch, we're here today, is a co-working space. Two brothers from Columbus, Ohio, who just entrepreneurs who saw the need in their community as far as having a space where entrepreneurs could come together, not taking on the overhead of getting an office space and a building space and carrying that. You just have a space where, small office space, but you're around other entrepreneurs. You share resources, share ideas, but it's within your community, right? You don't have to leave that. So they decided to come to Indianapolis and sat down with us and talked about how do we make this available for minority entrepreneurs, minority businesses. So for years in Indianapolis, there have been conversations about co-working spaces, but we were dependent on the city, and the city wanted to create one, but the city was wondering, how do we keep this sustainable? If we spend the dollars up front, we're not going to keep spending the dollars, so how do we keep it sustainable? But a private entity with entrepreneurial principles around it has built a space that's going to be sustainable, but accessible to the people that need it most as well. So emerging entrepreneurs, emerging business owners can't operate in a vacuum. They need to be around an environment that fosters entrepreneurship, right? Risk-taking, ideas, supports, marketing, accounting, insurance. Like, I have to be around those environments so that way, one is it limits my cost to start a business because I'm sharing resources, but also an environment that encourages entrepreneurship, right? You need those days that you just need a pat on the back. You need the days that you just want to feel like you're not crazy, right? That your ideas actually could work. As an entrepreneur, being around those spaces, being around that kind of environment encourages and fosters growth. So the thing about entrepreneurship as well is, entrepreneurship is hard. Starting a business is hard. A lot of businesses fail. But even if you do fail, the one thing that doesn't leave you is the entrepreneurial mindset. The mindset of solving problems, taking risks, right? That mindset also is not prevalent in a lot of our communities, right? When you come from poverty, you don't take a lot of risks. You try to find the safest way to get out of poverty. So going to school, getting a degree, getting a job. And I'm locked in for 30 years, but those days are far gone today. The days of getting a job for 30 years, you know. So entrepreneurship is really the path. Starting a business, the gig economy, so many things, so many opportunities today. But how do we teach and create those spaces here in Indianapolis? If we're gonna build something from scratch, which is what we're doing when it comes to supporting and accelerating Black business growth, there's no playbook, right? So we're creating a playbook. So we can't create that playbook based on yesterday's ideas. We have to design for the future and create an environment where there are new ideas and new ways of doing things. So we have a unique opportunity to lead that. Spaces like Co-Hatch, where we are today, drives that. You walk in here and you're around nothing but entrepreneurs. Everyone is trying to solve a problem, is trying to generate capital, is trying to generate revenue to build their businesses. So when you get plugged into that, it's like I said, you get plugged into the training infrastructure of the NFL. In high school, I started working out and training. I was around other athletes, great coaches. I got into college, I got into the pros. Similar. Entrepreneurs and people who want to start a business, who have great ideas, get plugged into this kind of infrastructure. It fosters growth, it encourages them. So we're so grateful for our partnership with Co-Hatch because they've brought something to Indianapolis for years that the city has been trying to create. Today, in less than 2 years, they've built 4 of these spaces. One here in Broad Ripple, one in 16 Tech, one in Fishers, okay, and one in Zionsville. But they're looking to build more, especially in the heart of the city itself. So we're excited about the partnership. We love coming in here. We just feel smarter when we come in. I tell people you win championship by being around good players or playing with good players. And environments like this have nothing but good players and nothing but entrepreneurs that help drive you as well.
Our thanks again to Emil Ekiyor, founder of InnoPower Indy. Still to come, our industry focus. On this premiere episode of Business Equity and Opportunities, Ron Jordan, CEO of Jordan Hospitality Group, talks about franchises, and John Thompson shares a moment of success. It's coming up shortly on Business Equity and Opportunities. I'm Scott Sander.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities.
Welcome back. I'm Scott Sander. Each week on Business Equity and Opportunities, we will focus on a specific industry in business, then explain how it works. This week, Ron Jordan, CEO of Jordan Hospitality, talks about the restaurant industry. He's been in the business most of his life, and his group has Donato's franchises around Indianapolis. He shares his thoughts on how the pandemic has changed the restaurant industry, for better or worse.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities. Industry Focus.
For this industry focus, Ron Jordan, CEO of Jordan Hospitality Group, talks about franchises and why it may be the best choice for those who want to start a business.
We've been a small business. We're still a small business technically, right? We have 20 locations. We're under that mid-market cap in terms of our annual revenues. We're close. But going from an independent where we were 25 employees, one thing I can tell you is you have to have a plan for scale and growth, and it has to be responsible, right? So you have to look at that, you have to understand it. As you do, you also have to learn as an owner how to operate individually when you need to, and then how to get out of the weeds when it's also necessary. I think a lot of independent operators, which a lot of managers do as well, is they're doers, right? They've been doing it. Super hard workers. They get up every day at the same time, have a routine, and go in and complete their task. Well, you can't do that when you get to a certain place in your life, right? Like today, we have 20 locations here in Indianapolis. I can't get up at 7 in the morning every day, go to 20 locations, turn ovens and exhaust fans on and get started. You can't do it. You have to employ people to be able to do that. And you have to try to find the right people that have the right amount of autonomy and a right understanding of the business in general to be able to get up and know that this is their business every day. So that's the biggest transition piece, I think, for owners, is to go from that independent to now having to manage people and process versus having just to manage the business before. That's a big swing. A lot of people really struggle with that. I'll be honest with you, my father, he's an operator, great operator. He really struggled when we got from that 1 to 2 units, that 2 to 3 units, that 3 to 5 units, and then 6 eventually. He was still trying to do everything. And I was like, hey, let's take a look at this differently. Of course, as a father-son dynamic, it's always tough, right? You got the son trying to tell the father how to do something, but the challenge for him was looking at it from a systematic approach, right? Understanding that we can't manage every napkin and plate and cup and ketchup packet that goes out the drive-through window. Instead, let's put together a model where we have a margin of error in terms of our cost. We look at that cost, we back into it, we get an understanding of what we can afford and what we can't, and we manage that P&L, and we manage that process versus trying to individually manage that crew member. That is a big struggle for a lot of folks coming out of the independent operation. So hopefully you have a plan for that, and you're able to then, with your own mindset, go from that 100-foot view up to 10,000 feet. And if you can manage that, then you can be successful.
Our thanks again to Ron Jordan, CEO of Jordan Hospitality Group. To get more information on franchises and more from Ron online, go to beoshow.com. Coming up next, a success story from Chairman and CEO of Thompson Distribution Company, John Thompson. This is Business Equity and Opportunities.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities.
I think this is a wonderful, not just a concept, it's a reality now. When I heard about the program, I was really excited because it gives some visibility to the business community, the diverse business community, and some of the struggles, some of the opportunities. It highlights some very successful businesses that are not necessarily relying on, certification or goals from different corporations, but they actually have viable companies that can compete with other non-minority owned firms. And I think probably some of the businesses that you'll be speaking with, that will be very evident. So at the end of the day, while, organizations like mine exist to help those businesses, we've seen so many businesses grow to the point where certification is really not an issue, because at the end of the day, whether you're certified or not, you have to present a good product or service and be competitive in order to do business. And so I think this program will definitely highlight a lot of businesses in our community that people aren't aware of, that have the capacity and the capability to do business with corporate America.
Our thanks to Carolyn Mosby, CEO of the Mid-States Minority Supplier Development Council, for her insight and support. Be sure to get more and watch more on beoshow.com. Finally on our program is something every entrepreneur hopes for in business: success. Each week on Business Equity and Opportunities, we will share a success story from one of our business contributors. This week, we share a small glimpse of history from Chairman and CEO of Thompson Distribution Company, John Thompson. He's an inspiration to many and gives his insight into why what we do here may have a positive impact on your business as well.
This is Business Equity and Opportunities. Success Story.
Success is something all business owners hope for. Here's a small glimpse of history from John Thompson, Chair and CEO of Thompson Distribution Company, who shares why what we do here may have a positive impact on your business as well.
I grew up in a very fun neighborhood, very poor neighborhood on the Lower East Side of Baltimore in the public housing projects. So there was always a way for a poor young kid to go down the waterfront and make money and go through neighborhoods making money. So I've been an entrepreneur since I was 8 years old. Even before that, I was going to the grocery store for people. But at 8 years old, I started doing things like selling fruits and vegetables off of horses and wagons. So I would go ahead at 8 years old. The watermelon is cut up. I got a quarter of it in my arm, showing how red it is. I have some fresh collard greens perhaps, or kale. I might have a few sweet potatoes. And I'm walking ahead through the neighborhood, yelling out what I have. And so the people in the neighborhood know I'm coming, know that the wagon is coming. And I'm yelling out, watermelon, kale, spinach, we have it all fresh and low price. And I'm coming. And so he's about 2 blocks behind me. So you know to come out your house and be ready when he gets there. Then down on the waterfront in the 60s, this is pre-container ships. So the bananas came in, United Fruit Company brought in the bananas from Latin America, from Brazil and South America on boats, banana boats. But there were no containers then. So the bananas were in big nets, and they set them down in the hull of the ship. And then they'd hook on the nets and pull them up to the deck. And then they would have anyone who wanted to work that day come down there and grab the bananas in big bunches. And as a 10-year-old kid, you could make $2 in a day doing that. And that was a nice chunk of change. The way my mother ran the household, I'd give her half and I'd keep half. And so my brother, he was down there with me. And then we carried grocery bags, but we were entrepreneurs. All of this was self-employment. I didn't know that I was learning self-employment, but I was. I think the value of the show that you've created is phenomenal, because many of the resources that I've talked about, they're not known around the state. We got to get the word out that we have help for you in starting your business, even developing the business plan, helping you get financing. The state, I mentioned venture capital tax credits to you. They used to be 20%. So you invest $100, the state gives you a $20 credit. Now, they're 25% for businesses in general. For minority and women-owned businesses, they're 30%. The limit was $1 million in tax credits for a given company. Now, for minority and women-owned businesses, the limit is $1.5 million. You know, so there are a lot of things happening to encourage entrepreneurship and to do it in areas where we've historically not had enough of it. You helping to get the word out on these things is invaluable. Small Business Development Center can help you with your business plan. People don't know that. And getting the word out around the state, I think it's very, very important. I really do. And there's much more coming. Small business investment credits are coming. These credits, we had them before. Indiana got $35 million before, back 10 years ago. And now there are orders of magnitude more dollars for states. And those dollars can be reinvested in businesses of all types, entrepreneurs, to get their businesses started. We haven't been given an award yet. It hasn't been made known. Most states have applied. I'm optimistic that we'll be successful. And it'll be significantly more than the $35 million that we got before. But you've got to invest the dollars wisely. But it's for entrepreneurship. And Indiana, we've been in the bottom 3 states in terms of new business formation. And we got to move up. You know, we can't be in the bottom 3 states. We got to strive to get to the middle and then to the upper half. And then continue to strive to get higher and higher. Encourage new business formation and get the word out that these resources are there. And that's where you all come in.
Thank you again to John Thompson and all of our contributors on this premiere episode of Business Equity and Opportunities. We hope you found the information enlightening, useful, and inspiring. Be sure to discover more great videos and information online at beoshow.com. And join us again next week for more insights into the world of small business on Business Equity and Opportunities. I'm Scott Sander. Thanks for watching.